Hey.
Hey, yeah. Okay.
All right.
Good.
We're live
So
again.
yeah. So it looks like.
Okay.
Yeah, you're talking about EEC. Okay. So let's see if there are more questions.
Yeah.
Okay, this is for some of my juniors. So I'm reading Dayanidhi's question, Vijay. This is for some of my juniors who are sophomores. The extent of work they would have done is pretty limited. So could you shed some light on the expectations from the three letters? I think we just spoke about LORs. Dayanidhi, this was, I don't know that you asked before when we spoke about the LOR or after, but I think Vijay mentioned about the expectations in the LOR.
So PK, your video is frozen again. I think when you switch tabs to go look at the comments, it gets frozen.
Oh, is it? But I'm not even using my machine to see the comments. I'm using a laptop to see it.
I guess because you're logged in both places. I'm not sure, but that's what is happening.
Okay.
It was fine until you
So
went and looked at the comments.
So, but it's okay, right? But is my video required? I think everybody's saying that the voice is there.
Okay, yeah, the voice is fine. Yeah, we can continue. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's okay.
Right.
It may be more because I think people are joining in, going out, and coming back is not going to be very good. So we already have in the second session also 42 people watching. So I think let's not spend more time on that. Yeah. Okay. So there's a question from Drew, I guess. Just checking, did Prof. Chidambaram say he needs 3 LORs for the applications? Also, where should people apply? Okay. So
yeah. So there is a.
Why don't you go ahead, Vijay? No. I think you know where. The
so
first part, I think Drew, he said yes, he needs 3 LORs. Yeah.
Yes. So let me also sort of answer the intent behind some of the other questions too. So people are asking, if sophomores are applying for this, like how can they have 3 letters? How can they have any work done by the time? I think this is a fair question. But the thing is we are looking for sort of an exceptional student, right? So this is a remote fellowship, which means I'm not going to be there to drive the student forward. This is a student who's sort of very self-starting, very motivated to do things on their own, right? So we are looking for that student. So there are a lot of students who are academically excellent but require constant supervision to work. So that wouldn't work out in this sort of fellowship. So we're looking for kind of a unique student here, and that is why I'm sort of stressing on the 3 LORs and projects that they should have done already, right? So it is a high bar. I completely agree. It is kind of an unfair bar, but they will be working in sort of very unfair situations without constant help from me. So to succeed in that environment, they are somebody who needs to have done sort of their own work and needs to have interacted with professors and be in a position to get good letters. So that's why we have those requirements. Okay.
Yeah, Vijay. I think it's fair from your side, right? You have it's a supply and demand question, right? You are demanding these kind of features or these kind of skills, characteristics that the student should have. And if the students have it, I'm sure somebody will crack. It's going to be interesting to see who gets that one internship. I think we should brag about whoever gets it also.
well, we'll see how it goes.
Vijay, there's another question. Umesh Singla is asking. You can take that.
So the question is, if a student has research experience but not in systems, does it still count? Yes, it definitely does count. So let's say you did work on robotics, right? And a professor writes you this amazing letter saying you picked it up really fast, within 3 weeks you are off the ground running. That is, I absolutely love that. If you have a letter like that, that makes you stand apart from the crowd. Now, having said that, I do require some amount of system building experience also. Let's say you are in theory, right? And you work with a professor, they found you amazing. I don't know if that will transfer to system building or not, because those are quite separate. So if you have research experience with a professor in some other area, but you also have some system building experience, that's really the ideal mix. So then I'd be like, this is a great candidate.
Vijay, I think multiple times this question has come, where do you have to apply? Do you want to post the URL as a reply to the video itself?
Let me do that. Yes. Okay,
Yeah,
so
okay, that's nice.
there is a blog post that has the details. So I put the blog post in the comments. So basically, there is an email address that you have to send your application to, right? So we don't have a formal system where you can upload PDFs and stuff. So it's just email for now. So you send in your application, which is like your CV, your transcripts and stuff, and then your whoever is writing letter for you just sends us email saying this is a letter for XYZ. That's it. It's a very low pressure situation to apply. So that's how we apply. And as I mentioned before, the deadline has been extended until June 15th.
Yeah. Vijay, there's a question from Sri Krishna Kashyap also.
Yeah, so the question is like, what kind of projects am I looking for? Like, what kind of fundamentals do I want? So student mentions that they've done projects on prediction models, on data structures and algorithms. That's the right kind of stuff. So I want to see something that you have yourself built, so you sort of like know the pain of building a system. On the scale of like 0 to ideal would be some sort of like non-trivial, non-class, non-assignment project, right? So building a binary search tree, everybody would have done. That's sort of like a smaller project. So what's a bigger project? Let's say you have a tech fest at your college, right? And you wrote the software whereby everybody could register and participate in events. That's a more sizable project, and the fact that it was actually used indicates that like you thought about a lot of stuff that you don't have to if it's a class assignment, right? So that's a sort of the scale, right? So sort of like a single class assignments or implemented data structure, that's better than nothing. But I'm looking for something slightly more complicated. And so in sort of like the applications that I see at UT Austin, a lot of students have this. So a lot of students have built very non-trivial, sizable software systems on their own. So I think, I do expect a lot of applicants to have this.
Okay, cool. Anything else you want to add, Vijay? I think we talked about application, your expectations, what kind of work is going to be done. Anything else?
Yeah. I mean, really the timeline for this fellowship is such that you do the fellowship and then you apply for grad school. So the best outcome for everybody involved is that the student does a great fellowship. I write them a strong letter, then they get like a great, they get into a great grad school. So that's sort of like the progression arc, right? So there is a monetary benefit involved here, but you should not do it for that. That's kind of like what I would say. So if you want to do grad school, but if you are in a university in India where like you don't have access to good research labs, right? This is the fit for you, right? So you want to do research, you want to go to grad school, but you don't know how to get research experience, then you should apply.
And I also see that this is a grad school thing happening 2 years from now, right? Because I think it is many now students in India, right? The next big thing, next big wave in India for the next 5-6 months is going to be application process for fall 2019. Whereas in this case, this internship is designed for fall 2020.
Yes, that's right. I mean, even further,
so,
maybe. Yeah.
Oh yeah, even further.
So
sure, but at least fall 2020, not before that.
I agree. Yes. Yeah, and I mean, like this isn't coming out like in the blog post, right? But when we do Skype interviews, one of the things we'll be trying to find out is the student like really passionate about research? Is this something they really want to do? So if we didn't do this, would they still go on and apply to grad school, right? So our goal is not just to find like this amazing academically brilliant student, right? So I think those students have like a lot of channels anyway. So our goal is to find someone who's great, who's talented, who would not have gotten into a good grad school otherwise, and then to help them do that. So that's our goal.
Very interesting. I think it's going to be meaning. It's going to be tricky to figure this difference also, right? I think that's a very good motivation. I think I can see the motivation behind making that difference. Academically good applications will anyway end up, probably not anyway, most likely end up getting into good grad school. But there's finding the person who doing this internship will add value to them. It's going to be interesting. Yeah, very good, very good.
So I mean, to clarify that a little bit, right? I'm not saying good students should not apply, not at all. But like if we see there's a student who's like who's in a university where they don't have access to a lot of these skills, but they still have amazing system skills, right? To us, that would be like we see that person is a little bit more qualified than a student who's, let's say, in IIIT Hyderabad, right, where they have so many resources. And so it's just a question of like finding who's the right fit for this. I'm not saying good applicants should not apply. In fact, we want a lot of like good applicants. But our motivation is really to find someone who wants to go to grad school, right, and help them do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think here, this is more a question to you. Meaning, when you mean grad school, you mean actually PhD, right?
Yes, PhD. For a master's, this stuff is not required.
Yeah. So I think now now I see your video is frozen, but I think let's leave it that way. But I think I want to reiterate this point, Vijay, for the students who are listening to this. I think sometimes grad school, by definition, because majority of the population from India actually goes to only masters, right? So let's reiterate that. I think Vijay just now said that this program is mostly designed for PhD students who are aspiring to do PhD.
Yes, and to expand a little bit about that, right? So when you apply for a PhD, in most good universities, they will see if you already have research experience, and we look at this in Austin too. And if you have letter writers who say that you have the potential to do good research. So for students in India, these two things are kind of lacking. They may not have access to anyone who they could do research with, or somebody who could write them like a good letter, right? So the Report B fellowship is totally designed for grad school, for PhD, for people who want to do research. If for students who are looking to do masters, I think that's a slightly different problem. That's not what we're trying to solve here. I think the PhD problem is a little bit more pressing, because if you don't do something, then a large majority of like very talented Indian students will never, I mean, research will not even show up on the radar. Like they won't even think about like, oh, maybe I could do research. So that's what this is designed to solve.
Very cool. I think it's. I sincerely wish that this one number will keep increasing as we move forward with your experience. I think as you do this, you should probably keep updating all of us about the progress that is happening also.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'll definitely do that. Like it depends upon finding the right person for this fellowship. We sincerely hope to find someone. And we will, like, if it's a success, we will shout it from the rooftops. So we hope it goes well.
Anything else, Vijay? I think we can wrap up if. I think there's no more questions coming up.
So somebody asked if a letter from industry will help. Yeah. So it totally helps. So I remember reading this letter from for somebody in the admissions committee, where this was like the manager of the student who was writing the letter, and they were saying basically, we took the student in for an internship. They were so amazing that even before the internship ended, we gave them a full-time offer. And that stuff is like really, it speaks to me, right? I mean, that student, and that there was more, right? Like the manager had said, the student was like amazing. They learned new stuff, and they held sort of like informal seminars to educate other people on the stuff that they had learned. These are really powerful statements, right? So, from an Indian undergrad perspective, it's not really clear what's a good letter and what's a bad letter. A letter which says like they did an internship with me, they did good. That's an okay letter. A real letter is where they talk about like specific achievements that you have done, right? Things that impress them personally. And when you read something like that, like wow, like this student was like so impressive. They gave them an offer in like 3 weeks, or they held seminars in the company to educate other people. Then that's the stuff you want in a letter, right? You don't want like
absolutely.
you took my class, you got a name.
Yeah, absolutely, no doubts. I think there's another question about 15 June. Yes, Akshay Sharma, the deadline is 15 June.
Yes. Although I don't see that question. Okay.
So for people listening, we'll give you 1 or 2 more minutes, last minute or so. If you have any more questions, please pop it up as a comment and then we'll take it.
Yeah, and like so one other sort of like selfish aspect to doing this whole thing is to help me find students, right? So I have the students that I have like right now. A lot of them I found in very non-traditional ways. So and they've been amazing. So it's also to help me personally, right? Like if I work with you for a year and you're amazing, I will absolutely do my best to get you as a PhD student at UT Austin, right? So that's that selfish angle too.
Absolutely. If such things are attached to only, there's more motivation to do it, right?
Yeah. I mean, finding good students is hard. So this is sort of like one of my ways to sort of like find good students.
Yeah, I'll let you take that very super hard question to answer. Joyce Joseph is asking. I think I don't know. I'll let you answer that.
Yeah. So how much work required daily? On a daily basis, I don't know, but I'm estimating somewhere around like 20 to 30 hours per week. So again, like this is a lot of time, and the only reason I'm comfortable asking for that is because you get paid. For like unpaid remote internships, I leave it to the student, like however much time you can put in. But report B is actually funding you. So attached to that funding is a requirement that you spend a significant amount of time working on this. So yes, 20 to 30 hours would be sort of like the minimum, I would say, that you'd be working on this. Now, if you're a student at a university, finding these 20 to 30 hours will be hard. This is why we look for letters and projects where it shows that you already know how to manage your time very effectively.
Okay, cool.
Let's see.
Very nice, very nice. I think that's about the questions that we have.
Yeah.
I think I'm sure this must have been very informative for students interested in this program, which I think must have given them. First of all, it must have given them directly interacting with you. That's an opportunity, right? Opportunity to at least see the professor, ask questions directly and things like that. Thanks for the time. And I hope for the students who are listening and been asking the questions, I hope you will make use of the responses that Vijay gave in figuring out how to pitch your application. I think one is having the skills, the other one is actually how to put it forward. Good luck with whoever is applying, and good luck to you, Vijay, getting a successful student and turning the student into probably your own PhD student. I think that is good luck for that.
Thank you, and thank you so much for this opportunity, PK. Like without this, I don't think it would have quite the same reach. So thank you so much.
No, it's okay. I think the purpose of building all this interesting ways of doing it is to get people like you to talk to people, to students in India, right? I think otherwise we don't get the opportunity to interact with people like you. So I think that's the whole purpose. Okay, cool. So we'll sign off, Vijay. If there's any questions, I'm sure people will post it as a comment in the video. If there's any further questions, you can take it up later as post.
Sounds good. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you so
Good
much.
luck.
VK.
Have a good week ahead. Take care. Bye bye.
Thanks.